the Sewer Authority Midcoastside for January 25th, 2021 to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Director Lohman.
Here.
Director Roddick.
Here.
Director Roddick.
Here.
Director Clark.
Present.
Director Slater-Carter.
Present.
Director Penrose.
Here.
Chair Dye.
Here. All right, thank you.
Can you call Senator Sanders?
Yes, where is he? Where's Bernie?
Yeah, really.
It's right behind Tim.
I didn't bring my mittens.
Did you see the one where he's surfing Mavericks?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I saw the one where he was on the dating game.
I didn't see that one. Yeah.
Oh, I saw the one of him with the turkeys on Nextdoor. We have a local flock of turkeys here.
I had to stop again on Sunshine Valley to wait till the turkeys got off the road.
Yeah.
Right. Public comment. Do we have anyone from the public who would like to comment for an item not on the agenda?
I see Michelle.
Oh, I see Sue. I see George.
Hello.
Hello. All right. Hearing no one who wants to speak on item not on the agenda, shall we move on to the consent agenda?
Please.
Does anyone want to pull anything from the consent agenda for further discussion? Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move.
Second.
Oh,
Is there any
You
further
can have it,
discussion?
Rick.
I yield.
Is there any further discussion? Okay. Could we have a roll call, please?
Director Lohman.
Here. Yes, whatever.
Director Roddick.
Yes.
Director Clark.
Aye.
Director Slater-Carter.
Yes.
Director Penrose.
Yes.
Chair Dye.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Great.
Tim does have Bernie here, so he joined there on the beat.
Yeah, that's what I was reacting to, actually.
Okay.
Oh, I see. Oh, good. I'm glad Bernie's at this meeting. That's important. All right. Moving on to regular business. Item A, receive the flow distribution details for year 2020. Kishan?
Yes. So this agenda item is for discussion, and we normally prepare the flow reports for the previous calendar year, so that'll be a starting point for the distribution in the allocation distribution in the budget. So we wanted to give prior advance information to all the agencies that this is what's coming up in the budget. And the fluctuations, as you see, from 2012 to 2020, there has been an increase, a marginal increase every year in Half Moon Bay. And we see this year's, the last calendar year's distribution would be 58.4% of Half Moon Bay. GCSD is about 20.5, and Montara is going to be 21.1. So this is the reports have been has been given to the board every month, and it's just a consolidation of what's been done. Any questions? Staff is here to answer, please.
I have a question on the flows. I'm interested in knowing how the rains affect the flows. And I look at the charts and I see that when there are rains, everybody's flows go up. Is it possible to see what kind of percentage increase for each agency happens when there's rains? Is that something you could easily calculate for us?
Oh yeah, that's clearly in our monthly reports where we give day-to-day flows, including the days when it is rained. So that we can always indicate, but as you know, distribution is different in different parts. Sometimes it rains heavily in Montara area and it rains less in Half Moon Bay area. So it's kind of
Oh,
difficult to interpret, but you get a feel of what's going on.
Yeah, you can get a feel, but it's interesting to look at the maps for various rainstorms and see how how the rain is distributed. I always thought Montero got the most rain, but there's parts of Half Moon Bay that get a whole lot more than we do.
yeah. I'm just curious to have a little more information about how the rains, if there's any, next time that there's rains, I guess we're gonna this week. But it'd be interesting to me to see a little more analysis of how the rains impact all our flows. And if it, there's a difference. Because you could see, I mean, you don't have rain data per area, right? Or could you get that?
We have rain data for each district. We have we collect it for Half Moon Bay at the treatment plant. Montera has a really nice weather station, and then Granada we get it. We can get the airport or at various whatever locations that we use daily there.
Well, if it wouldn't be a lot of trouble, can we get just a report that shows? Sorry, Rick, I'll come back to you in a sec. That shows, like after a rain, what the percentage increase in our flows is by district?
Well, that's a standard tabulation that we see every, and it's historic that we've seen on the flow report for decades.
Well, I've seen it in terms of the graph and so forth, but not particularly in terms of a percentage analysis per time. So
yeah,
Rick,
no, there's data.
Rick, I know there
Yeah.
is, but I'd like to see
Real quick, I think as everybody has said, it's super, super variable, but it's also variable throughout the year. And initially, when we're dry, like during the drought, you get no INI. And then if we got a super El Nino and it rains and rains and rains, then it increases as the year goes on.
Bless
So
you.
you got multiple factors going all the time here, location, month, and all that. So it's pretty tough. We can see what we get.
Yeah,
I look at those every month too, and it seems there is great variability, but it seems there's a rough correlation between the miles of pipe each district has and how much that goes up when it rains.
Yep, we can make an attempt, but if it rains today, we don't know how the flows show up tomorrow or whether it shows up day after tomorrow. So
I'm not looking for something complicated that if it's really, hard to do, then fine. But if it's something we could just maybe present the information, I agree with Catherine that the data's there, that if it could be presented in a different way, it's something I would be interested in seeing.
okay, for these upcoming rains in this month of January, we'll see what best we can capture, and we'll try to bring something in the month of February.
That would be great, if it's not too much trouble. Great. Anything
Just
else
so I'm
on?
clear on this, quick question, just so I'm clear on this. Really the best way I could do is do like an average dry weather month comparison. Is that what you want? To wet weather flows? I'm just trying to get.
I mean, just like if 1 month, look, I look at the graphs and pretty much everything's, it stays in the same track during dry weather. When there's a storm, when the rains come, it goes up. How much does each district go up in any given rainstorm? I don't know. I'd just be curious to see that. I'm not asking for a real complicated analysis.
Well, it's more complicated than one would think, because when the ground is saturated, it will go up for days afterwards.
And
So
that should be easy to calculate.
for the initial storm, you won't see much increase, and then it goes up later.
The graphs show. The graph shows it goes up. Yes, you're right. The peak may be slightly pushed out.
Yes,
but
and that's what the graphs do show.
Yeah. I don't know. Any numbers you can come up with. Let's not. I don't want to over ask on this. Just if there's something that we can figure out how much it goes up during a storm, I'd like to see that. Anybody else have any?
We'll make an attempt.
Or questions on item A? Okay, moving on.
I just want to point out that statistics lie.
Yes.
Thank you, Deborah.
Get some data and unless it's in context and rigorously evaluated and compared, it can be used for, villainous purposes.
Well, I assure you, I had no villainous purposes in mind. I was just curious.
One of my favorite books as a kid was How to Lie with Statistics. Good book. Quick read. Not much plot.
Well, the numbers are also the numbers. So, and keeping in mind that they could change storm to storm or time to time, it still would be, if there's a very small calculation that could be made, I would be interested in that. That's all
I
I'm
would
saying.
maintain that the numbers aren't necessarily the numbers.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
I would maintain that the numbers aren't necessarily the numbers. It's like the numbers from what and defined how and measured when and measured how. It's like
We get I'm
all
looking
you
at
gotta
the
do is read 538 to understand the perils of data.
right.
Yes.
We are looking at a data report here, and there are numbers that come in every month. And so these numbers are there. And this isn't like we're talking about create numbers. We're talking about looking at the numbers. We've had years of these specific numbers calculated in the same way. So it seems as if going forward, if we could make a simple additional calculation, that wouldn't be the end.
Well,
of
I would advise keeping an open mind.
Yeah.
Okay, deal.
I'm not even going to start talking about alternative facts here, so let's move on.
All right, let's move on to item B before you get into an even bigger hole.
Well, at least it's not our alternative realities like your science fiction movies.
Yep. Those are real realities.
All right, item B, wastewater management.
Let's review and discuss the proposal received from Wastewater Management Specialists, LLC, for process assistance and process control management plan initial implementation. To give you a background, the Board of Directors authorized Dan Child from Wastewater Management Specialists in December 2019 to assist Sam in what's called as management organizational improvements. And an exhaustive report was presented to the board in the last meeting. The board accepted the report, and now the wastewater management specialist has submitted a proposal for carrying out work in 2021. The number of hours done in 2020 has been drastically reduced, and what has been offered is a total of about 400 hours proposed by wastewater management specialists, and the breakup is 250 hours for initial implementation of a document which is called as a process control management plan, 100 hours for process assistance related to the recent upsets of increased BOD, and 50 hours for assisting SAM in developing an engineering RFP. So that was a proposal received by SAM, and this was discussed extensively amongst the managers in a managers meeting, and it was the managers then advised SAM, which SAM manager also complied with that and said that maybe the PCMP, which is the process control management plan, we need to look at it more closely, and we'll bring it back to the board at a later stage. Staff has not yet finished its review. Therefore, we would staff would recommend that we retain Dan Child only on a time and material basis for process control improvements, which is for the process control upsets which is happening. I mean, so far it's going good. We've been able to fix it, but in case we land up with some situations, staff should be able to talk to Dan, and so it's just on a T&M basis, not to exceed 100 hours, which is about 24,500. So that is staff's recommendation, and staff is here to answer any questions.
Okay, does anyone have questions? Director Ruddock.
So to Kishan, do you need a contract to be able to go to Dan or any consultant anytime and say, please take a look at this? I mean, it seems to me that's within your authority as the general manager and under your delegated budget authorities to seek assistance as you need it. I don't think we have to enter into a contract. Am I right about that? I mean, you can
Yes,
do this without a contract.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The contract was not required. It's just issuing a purchase order to Dan on a time and material basis.
That's a good point. Anyone else want to comment?
I would just go along with Director Ruddick on this. It just sort of sounds like instead of an open, purchase order, if something comes up where you and the staff determine there's a problem, we need somebody, then we just, get them for that right now. Let's see what happens for a little bit then.
Yeah, I don't think we actually need a contract. I mean, we've already delegated authority to Keishan to do what he needs to, and why do a contract if we don't need to do it?
Yeah.
Jeremy, did you want to say something here?
Yeah, I mean, just the idea here, directors, there was a proposal, so we just kind of wanted to give the board an understanding of the direction that Keishan was planning to go in, and so understanding he has delegated authority, which gives him some flexibility. We were mostly just trying to help the board understand the kind of general direction and make sure everyone was comfortable with it.
Yeah, this was brought to the board because on several occasions
That's fine.
that has been brought to the board, and therefore we wanted to keep the board informed about what was going on.
Director Penrose?
Yeah,
And then Clark.
I would agree with Director Ruddick and Director Lohman. I don't think there's a need for a contract. I trust that Keishan will call on Dan when he needs him and use his services. And I don't think a contract is necessary, even desirable.
Director Clark and then Lohman.
Doesn't it happen that if Keishan needs to call Dan and get him involved in something, they have to sign documents and get a contract anyway? So why not have one in place?
Jeremy, can you speak to that?
Yeah. Just the thinking was that Dan's already working on a number of items, and so there's a need for continuity, and so that was the idea of having a purchase order right away. That way, there's no loss of to the extent that Keishan needs the assistance, he's got an existing vehicle right away. So it's not really a contract. To the extent that we think of a contract being more cumbersome, but we're really just looking at a purchase order here, where we just have a vehicle, kind of an abbreviated vehicle in place that Keishan can take advantage of.
But if Keishan wants to call Dan and get his advice, and Dan agrees to give him advice for a set price, the board does not have to be involved in that.
True.
Right? Nor do we need a contract. It seems
Jeremy,
superfluous to me.
Jeremy, is that correct?
Yes. No. There's. I mean, that the board doesn't need to be involved. This is just informing the board of kind of the direction. So, yes, Keishan has different ways he can potentially access Dan's services, assuming that Dan's willing to provide those services.
Right.
Okay, so Lohman was next, and then Catherine, did you?
Yeah, just real quick, depending on the level of emergency and things like that, I know the board, this is a super active board. If it's inconsequential, then, the next manager's report is fine, but we'd also like to know, what broke or where was the emergency or what happened. And just, I like to know stuff. So please keep us informed as best you can as, what's happening and, what happened that we had to spend some money and all that kind of stuff. So we just like to know too. So
Sure.
Do what you need to do.
No, you're supporting no contract.
I don't think we need a contract unless it's, massive saving of clerical time or something like that. But,
Yeah.
Well, actually, if Keishan wants
Wait,
to.
Director Slater-Carter was next. Director Slater-Carter was next.
I actually like contracts. I think they give definition, they give clarity, there's no mistakes. Even if it, and we've used time and materials kinds of contracts, but that way everything is in the is in writing with agreed upon terms. There's no confusion later. I think it's better for both the contractor and the person doing the job. because everybody knows what needs to be done. If you just do it used to be you could do handshake deals, but those went away a long time ago. So my preference is, just for clarity, both for Dan and for Sam, that we have a contract that can always be amended. There are standard P&M types of contracts. I'm sure Jeremy has one that he can just pull out of his hat, and, well, if he were wearing one. But
Well, I can find one.
okay, I knew that.
Yeah, I mean, one thing, just clarification. So any agreement to do something that's supported, I mean, kind of basic first year law stuff is, a contract can be written, it can be oral. I think what I'm hearing from the board, and I could be, correct me if I'm wrong, is just Kishan has the flexibility to do what he needs to do here, and he can report back to the board just in as part of his general manager's reports as to how things are going. Does that capture the board's sentiment here?
I think that's what most of the board is saying. Director Ruddick was next.
Yeah, so if Keishan feels he wants to enter into a contract, he can do that. I don't see we need to intervene. Let the general manager do his job as he sees fit.
I agree with that. Director Clark.
I would like to say I appreciate that the general manager brought this to us, even though it was within his purview to make the arrangement and not have to tell us.
I agree with the communication. Anyone else want to comment on this? Do you think you have sufficient direction, Kishan, or do we need some kind of?
There's no vote required. This was informational.
This was just information. Yep.
I'm fine.
Everybody happy with the consensus on this?
Yes.
All right. Do what you need to do, Kishan.
Okay. Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Moving on with item C, determination not to proceed with Amoresco scope of work and authorize general manager to pay Amoresco the project development fee of $60,000. Give us a staff report.
Yeah, this the item with Amoresco started way back in August 26, 2019. The board had heard a presentation from Amoresco outlining various opportunities for energy saving. It was the on-site generation with microturbine, solar, and of course, also had some pumps and motors. Now, as these items were actually a part of SAM's adopted 5-year CIP and was selected based in consultation with SAM staff. Now, as months progressed, when Amoresco started doing the work, they came across several scenarios wherein the solar could not be pursued because of environmental concerns, and the microturbine could not pencil out because of high cost of O&M. Therefore, it boiled down to the rest of the projects which were laid out in the project development agreement, which were actually pumps and motors. And those were basically replacement items for various places in the plant and in the pump station, which SAM owns. It was thought at that point of time that these could possibly comply with 4217, which is a California code, and which could be used for any energy saving projects. But on delving more deeper into it and in consultation with our legal counsel, it was found that these projects cannot be taken under the umbrella of 4217. And therefore, we're not able to proceed with Amoresco as of now. And therefore, staff recommends that the board authorize the staff to notify Amoresco that SAM will not be proceeding with award of a sole source contract to Amoresco because it does not comply with the 4217 requirements. And therefore, it recommends that the board authorize the general manager to pay Amoresco the project development fee, which was agreed upon in 2019, to the sum of $60,000. And staff is here to answer any questions, and I believe Amoresco is also here. I'm not sure if they'd like to talk about it, but...
Well, let me go to Jeremy next, talk our attorney to speak to this, and we'll see if Amoresco wants to.
Sure. Yeah, I Amoresco, I mean, I think they worked with what they had. Just the Government Code 4217 authorizes certain kinds of projects that pay for themselves. And we don't have a project that does that. Now, I initially before I really dug into the numbers, and back in December, when we were preparing the staff report to potentially move forward to the board, I was looking at the numbers, and I looked at the statute, and I was like, I just don't see how we justify this, because the cost savings from energy savings were very small. And then even if you included the cost savings from reduced O&M, they're still relatively small compared to the cost of the work. And so, not that work's not important, it is, but there's other ways. Government Code 4217 is the exemption from the otherwise applicable requirement, both under the Public Contract Code and under Sam's own policy, that absent an exception, you're supposed to competitively bid public works contracts, right? And so, I had asked Amoresco, do you have examples in scenarios like ours where there's really just not very much cost savings, where a public agency did move forward? Now, to their credit, they really, I think they tried to, creative solutions, and they were certainly, good to work with. But so the conclusion is it probably needs to be done through the public bidding process. But they did, as in Commissioner and I consulting, it did seem like they performed the parts of the agreement that would entitle them to the development fee, and therefore we believe it's appropriate for under the contract to pay that development fee.
Thank you. Amoresco, who is here representing Amoresco, would you like to speak?
Yes, good evening. This is Warren Van Ryzen with Amoresco. I just want to say thank you for some of the comments, and for Kishan and Jeremy giving some background and explanation. Just wanted to highlight a couple things. Unfortunately, our intent was not to get to this point. We really wanted to move forward with a project that, would benefit Sam and all the member agencies, but unfortunately we ran into some issues that we were not able to overcome. We did try our hardest to look at alternatives, via different technologies and the manufacturers, and even different ways of contracting through service agreements and other items. But at the end of the day, this is where we are, given our best efforts for everything. I think at the end of the day, the work that we have done and Sam will receive, it gives them a good idea of what they could expect taking this work forward. We did get competitive bids from multiple bidders for all scopes of work. Also looked at what the annual operating expenses are for all of these solutions, as well as what type of rebates and energy savings could be realized for something like this. And our uniqueness of what we bring to our customers is, a turnkey solution with guaranteed savings, as well as the opportunity to offer operational services as needed. One last item that I've kind of been taking a look at recently is taking a deeper dive into some improvements for Sam's aeration basins. I know it's the intent to make a decision on whether or not to cancel or move forward with a project with Amoresco, but I wanted to ask if there was a possibility to postpone the decision of tonight and allow Amoresco a few weeks to take a more detailed look at some aeration basin improvements, see if those would be applicable under California Code 4217, and have some type of project to move forward with. That's really all I wanted to say, and a last minute request. And I want to thank every one of you for the opportunity, and wish you all the best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would anyone like to speak to this? Catherine?
It's easy enough for us to wait and have them come forward with a proposal if they're willing to do it. Proposals are always good for information and figuring out what you're going to do next anyway, so it's always educational. I think that since Amoresco came forward, the aeration basins are certainly something we have needed to do for a very long time. They are, I'm shocked and amazed that they're working still, given how long it has been. So let's do some information gathering and just postpone this for a little while. We can always put it back on another agenda and see what they have to say. We're not making a commitment to go forward with it, are we, Warren?
No, we would just give our update, and it wouldn't be any modification to our break fee. If there's something there, or if there isn't, we would have the same discussion, a month from now. And there's no obligation to move forward. It would be the same as existing.
I always like working with somebody who wants to work with me and for me. I always find that's a major advantage. And instead of having, in many cases, I've tried to hire people and they've come out and given me an estimate and I never saw them again, even though I was willing to sign. So I propose that we go forward with it since there's no obligation for us, only time.
So are you proposing that we pay them their $60,000 fee and then continue to work with them?
I think we're going to have to pay them their $60,000 fee, whether we continue to work with them or not.
All right, I understand what you're saying. Director Ruddock, and then Lohman.
Yeah, I mean, so I appreciated legal counsel's analysis on this. And so my question would be, is the aeration basin project something that might fall within the law that allows sole sourcing? Now, my understanding it had to do with like energy savings, but is it a broader sort of code? So that's my question for Jeremy.
It's really energy savings or new generation that produces revenue. So the one that I've seen a lot for cities, I think Amoresco's done some of them, is HVAC. Apparently when you replace some of these older HVACs, it just really saves a lot of energy. And so if you take that cost savings over 30 years, you've basically paid for the project. We don't have that here. I don't have the analysis as to whatever Amoresco has in mind. And so I guess we'd have to see whatever they come up with to see if there'd have to be really meaningful, significant cost savings as far as future energy savings. And so, I mean, it would really depend on what they propose and what the savings would be as a result of it.
Well, what I don't want to do is get into a situation where we have to pay them another project management fee, right? So I understand that I'm ready to approve paying them the $60,000 project management fee. The work has been done. But, I'm thinking aeration basin. I'm not sure how that fits into the scheme of money savings and sole sourcing. And I don't want to, come back with something that's, of questionable value and then still have to pay them like another project management fee.
Well, that would have to be clear, I think. And I think I heard Mr. Van Ryzen indicate that there would not be an additional fee, but that would need to be clarified. But I'll be quiet.
And let me just say that when they first came in, when they proposed the work and we approved it, I don't know that we actually really focused on the $60,000 fee. It was going to be at no cost to us. And we said, well, this sounds really great. Let's go for it. Director Lohman was next. And then I saw Kishan, you had your hand up.
Just a couple thoughts, and I'm not opposed to additional proposals, but I believe, and I don't know the timing on this, I think the latest CIP estimates were just passed out to everybody. I think it would be relevant to have everybody, I don't know how much analysis has gone into those, but I would like to see an approved, project list for the next 5 years and what's on the list, what's not on the list as part of this discussion, to see if, Amoresco is going to offer other things that we don't have on the CIP. I haven't done a detailed analysis myself. So I'd like to see that worked into the discussion here somehow on how much stuff we're going to do in the next 5 years. Based on the fact that we've launched this little committee we'll report on later, the SAM 2040 committee. SAM might be in a complete 100% different configuration in 10 to 15, 20 years. So I don't want to look at things that show, savings. I know may not have been exact, like Jeremy said, over 30 years. We may not even have that plant in 30 years and stuff like that. So I don't want to look too far in the future. Last little comment. I am not basically opposed to looking at loans and things like that, because I've always felt that doing bunches of projects and getting loans to cover them, pushing some of the cost out into the future on other people who are moving into the area instead of having everybody who's here today pay for everything. I'm not opposed to that concept either. So I would just like to see a big picture of what's the total list of projects we want to look at for the next 5 years or so, and just see how that works into the equation. That's it.
I agree with that. Okay, Kishan, and then Director Reddick, then Director Slater-Carter. And I just want to say that as part of the CIP, a lot of these projects are there, these including the aeration basins. And it sounds as if they want kind of a sole source, energy-based, non-bid contract. And I think at this point, we should probably be bidding out our various contracts unless there's some special energy savings reason why we would go with a sole source contract. But let me go to Kishan and then Director Reddick, then Director Slater-Carter.
Yeah, as I see it and understand from what Ameresco is offering right now, it appears that there's no extra cost involved. They just want the board to defer the decision by another 4 weeks or so for the same 60,000 that is included in the project development agreement. They're willing to look at the aeration basin and propose the aeration basin if there is any energy savings. So it's not an additional amount of money or anything involved. That's the way I understood. They're just extending their the projects to aeration basin and seeing whether changing over from coarse diffusers to fine diffusers will result in energy savings, or whether that could comply with 4217. That's the way I understood. Please correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen from Ameresco.
But they're not talking about bidding on that project. They're talking about being given that project because of its energy savings.
Yeah. If it's 4217, it's sole source. I mean, that's the distinction. Although you can bid a project under 4217, but that almost nobody does. I mean, that's the reason that people do it, is because it creates a venue for a sole source.
Okay, Director Reddick.
So I would be inclined to have a motion to pay Ameresco the project management fee, and make that motion tonight and act on that tonight. I'm sorry it didn't work out. I mean, I think they're reputable folks. I think they have a good product. I think it's just we didn't have the environment that fit that model, unfortunately. But I need a lot of persuading to think that even the aeration basins would even, as a category, fit the sole sourcing and the energy savings. If it does, that's great. But I'd rather pay them. They want to look at it, great. But we're about to discuss major capital improvement projects, and to me that's the priority. I don't see any reason to defer the project management thing. It seems to be the realistic thing to do based on the agreement we had for the work that was done. I want us to be very careful about sole sourcing. And, I work for a state agency and we do environmental services contracts, and we can only enter into them if there are unique, substantial savings involved. If there's work that nobody else can do and deliver that product. So I'm very sensitive to the issues that Jeremy raised in his analysis. And I think we need to be careful with that. We want to be transparent. We want to put things out to bid, issue RFPs. So I think we should just pay them. If they want to look at it separately, great. But I don't see any reason to wait.
Okay. Director Slater-Carter.
Thank you. I can't argue with Debbie on that, whether we pay them now or later. Tim, how old are our aeration basins? And when was the last time they were cleaned and retrofitted?
They're in the CIP. They're in the proposed CIP. It's
I'm
very
asking
high
Tim.
priority. Yeah.
As a high priority item.
96. Yep.
When they were actually,
So 25 years ago was the last time they were cleaned,
Not cleaned at all.
not cleaned at all, ever.
Yep.
And so, Tim and Keishan, the technology for these things has changed a lot in the last 25 years, right?
Yes. Definitely.
And so the kind of pumps that are air pumps that are even being used could lead to a significant savings in either diesel or electrical costs, depending on how it's run. I would like to see. I don't care when we pay them. And that's just as well. And maybe we can enter into an agreement with them, and they can come forward with a proposal. And if they don't mind, we can ask somebody else to also come in with a proposal and compare them. I like the idea of spending money right now through loans. I think it's not good to have the SAM budget going up and down and up and down. When cities or special districts end up having had some kind of extraordinary cost, all of a sudden there's not money available for SAM. And that has cost us extraordinary amounts of money down the road when we haven't been able to fix things in a timely fashion. I think having 2 aeration basins could save us enormous amounts of money and energy in being able to have schedule the way they work and when they get cleaned and when they just all of the operations of them. It's better to have redundancy than not. So I'd like to see that done. But like I say, I don't object to paying them $60,000 now. I'm sure that they're a reputable organization, as Deborah said, and I'm sure they will be giving us a good proposal when they come back. And I'd like to see more kinds of these long-term payment proposals. We're looking at a 5-year CIP, and the numbers shocked me over 5 years. It's a lot of money. And it's a lot of money for every single agency. So let's see if we can't spread it out over 20 years or more. It makes it easier for us to keep our own agencies taking care of their emergencies.
Hey, Director Clark?
Well, first, I don't see how putting more aeration basins online could possibly save us energy, because they take energy to run, and we've run just one for all these years, and now say we have 3 either running or ready to go. I don't see how that's going to save energy, even if they're more efficient than they were 25 years ago. But I also remember reading the material about Amoresco several months ago, but I don't remember seeing exactly how they responded to the proposed CIP. Are all the other projects, or many of the other projects in the proposed CIP, did they come up under the study that we're paying for?
I can talk to that. This is Warren with Amoresco. Well, first, the intent with the aeration basins was to look and see on a preliminary analysis if there's an opportunity for savings in excess of cost of improvements by converting from coarse aeration to fine aeration. That's something that we just took a look at, and it looked viable, so we wanted to do a deeper dive. If it turns out that it's not something that can be paid back within a standard financing term, like 20 years, to be applicable under 4217, then we would just put our pencils down. The analysis that we did looked at portions of the CIP, mainly pump and motor replacements. I don't know the exact CIP codes or numbers from them, but They were more to do with energy consuming equipment like pumps, motors, and some electrical infrastructure improvements. So it wasn't the whole suite of CIP projects.
Thank you. I mean, I think that there are a lot of repairs that are needed at the SAM facility. We are about to take a look at a very well crafted and thought out CIP program that's going to come to us shortly. I agree with the notion that in some cases it does make sense to finance it, whether it makes sense to finance it through a sole source contract. I think we have the capacity to finance it ourselves as an agency if we need to. I think there's a lot of decisions to be made. I'm not sure just trying to force to make an Amoresco project work makes sense for us for now. It's too bad. If they could have done the energy saving projects that they proposed, they do seem extremely competent in that area. They would have done a great job. That's separate from the issue of whether we needed to finance it or not, without looking at the bigger picture of all the things that need to get done and what are the highest priority things to get done. And we are going to start that process with a workshop this week, and really looking at what our priorities to get done are and the ways to do it. So it seems to me that this was a good idea to do the energy savings, that we do owe them this project fee, and that we should do that and move forward. And if they want to propose doing work on some of the projects that are ahead, that are determined to be the highest priorities by the SAM staff and the managers committee and the board, then more power to them. They seem like a good outfit. And if they can do those things for us, great. But right now, it seems as if the next step is to say, the energy savings didn't pan out. We owe you this project program fee, and let's move on and start looking at the big picture of what we need to get done and how to get those things done. That's where I'm coming from. Director Lohman.
Yeah, just in real quick summary from my thoughts. And again, I think with the new CIP analysis, we're going to start very soon. I just want one plan. I don't want a CIP plan and then a separate kind of pseudo project plan on the side. If Amoresco ends up being the contractor for any of our projects, that's perfectly fine. I have no issues with that at all. I just want one plan that we can stick up on our website and say, here's how much money we're going to spend over the next 5 to 10 years. And then again, if financing it is available, in addition, I'm in favor of that too. So I just want one thing that we can all look at, and it's not piecemeal and anything on the side and stuff like that. I just want one document at the end. Thanks.
Director Slater-Carter.
I think Rick is on to a good point, and that is there's two parts to this. One is the financing, and the other is getting the work done and how they can hopefully be hooked together. Some years ago, we had a discussion about SAM getting to do financing, and because of SAM's JPA and the structure of SAM, standard forms of finance aren't necessarily available to SAM as they are to special districts and or to a city. And so one of the, because SAM has no income base, frankly, as I recall, Jeremy, and I'm sure you'll correct me or add detail, but SAM doesn't have the kind of income base that a special district or a city does. And so it can't get the same kind of loans at the same kinds of low interest rates, as I recall, that the city and the special districts do. And then there's just the loan acquisition costs are tripled by having 3 of us get loans instead of 1. There's all kinds of additional costs involved in that. So I think we need to be looking at all of the ins and outs of it. too.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone want to make a motion at this point? I think we've had a lot of discussion.
I'll make a motion. I make a motion that we pay Amoresco the $60,000. We've got the money, let's just do it, and that Amoresco comes back to us with a proposal to see if the aeration basins would fall under the sole source. And if it doesn't work, then we may or may not want to continue to discuss with Amoresco whether they will do the work under a competitive bid situation.
Well, it seems as if maybe you want to just make your motion to be the first part, because that's really all we're talking about tonight. I don't know that we need a motion to allow them to come back to us.
Well, they asked for it, and I think it would be respectful to give them the assurance that we're willing to continue the discussion.
Director Slater-Carter, would you want to clarify in your motion that if they do come back, there would be no additional requirement to pay an additional $60,000 or any other development fee?
Thank you, Jeremy, of course.
I'll second that if you want to get on to discussion on that. I'm fine.
Any discussion? So the motion is to agree to pay the $60,000 and to allow Amoresco or to come back to discuss further work with, as long as there's no, I mean, can you restate your motion, please, Catherine?
Just, Catherine, real quick. I just don't know the requirement to do that second part. I just think that's standard policy.
I just think there may not be a requirement, but it's an assurance for Amoresco.
I don't think we need to give them assurance. You know, we're paying them $60,000. We had a previous contract. We don't have to give them any assurances. We're in charge here. If they want to do it on their own, great. But, you know, the motion on the table is to, the direction from staff is pay the bill. Let's pay the bill and not worry about anything else. We don't owe them any assurances. We don't owe any contractors any assurances, unless our contract with them spells out that we need to have those assurances. So I'm not going to.
Could we break the motion into two parts?
What is your recommendation?
Kishan, what's your recommendation?
My recommendation is that we pay the $60,000 to Amoresco probably after 4 weeks when they come back, because once you pay them, that means the project development agreement is closed, no longer into agreement. So allow them to do the analysis and we take the same decision 4 weeks from now. If it doesn't cater to 4217, there we go. We just pay the $60,000 and say bye to Amoresco. Otherwise, we give them a chance.
That's my motion.
But at that point, we won't know, well, I guess we will have had one workshop to see whether the aeration basins are key to the CIP.
Tim Costello
and our analysis on the CIP on Friday or subsequent meetings to suit the situation.
Yeah.
Tim and Kishan, are the aeration basins critical?
The aeration basins are critical. They are a part of the CIP, which is being discussed at the workshop. It's only that by the time the CIP gets implemented, it's going to be for the next financial year. So we still have a lot of time to make changes. If for some reason Amoresco is able to justify the 4217, then for the same amount, say $400,000 of aeration basin project, which has been put in CIP, we would be putting some other projects which have been pushed to say 2025 to the following. We've got only for CIP projects, and the same proposal has been given to all of y'all, has got a number of projects which are not included in the 5-year CIP. So some of them can be brought back to this year where the aeration has been proposed. And we still have time because it's for the financial year 21-22. So giving them 4 weeks is not going to cause problems for us. We can still discuss it. And if they come back in 4 weeks and say it's penciling out or not penciling out, it's our choice. We can take a decision and decide whether to move forward or not.
So that would be a different motion. The motion would be just to postpone action for 4 weeks.
Yes, that is my proposal.
Catherine needs to withdraw her motion and
Yes,
make a new
Catherine,
motion.
how do you feel about that? Wait, you're muted. Catherine, tell us where you are on that.
I'm so unused to being quiet. I will withdraw my motion happily. I'm sure Rick will withdraw his second. And let's just postpone action for 4 weeks until we hear more from Amoresco per our general manager's advice.
I'm fine with withdrawing the second. I see no issues in waiting an extra month to pay them. That's their proposal, so let's wait a month.
Does anyone object to this? I don't think we need a motion on this. We just agreed to wait a month. Any objection? All right, that'll be the order. We'll see you in a month.
We're good.
Amoresco, thank you.
Nice discussion, people.
Do we need to take a vote on this?
Continue.
Do we need a vote, Jeremy? We don't, do we?
A motion to continue.
It's not a bad idea. You're basically just tabling it until the board meeting in February. That's what you're essentially doing.
Okay, can I have a
Yes.
motion to that effect, please?
So moved.
Second?
All right. Roll call, please. Any
Director Loman?
further discussion? Any further discussion? Anybody? Okay, roll call, please.
Director Lohman,
Yes.
Director Radek,
Yes.
Director Clark. Director Clark, you're muted.
Aye.
Director Slater Carter,
Yes.
Director Penrose,
Yes.
Chair Dye,
Yes.
motion passed.
All right.
I will say the internet is funny tonight. The video keeps freezing
You
and
bet.
the audio has interruptions. It must be all these ions moving in from the rain.
Yeah.
And someone's having, two, general manager's report.
Okay, you have the details in the packet given to you, but other than that, I'd like to report that the BOD issue seems to be under control of the plant. There are no violations, touch wood, as of now. We are trying to locate the source. We've moved some samplers to different locations, but yet to get the results, and we do not have any conclusion as of now, but we will keep the board updated about any findings that we have. So is there any questions in the staff report and the attachments that we've given you? Staff is here to answer those questions.
Do we have any questions? All right, I think that's good. Moving on, attorney's report.
Director, oh, no,
There
I didn't say anything.
We do have a closed session tonight. Hopefully I just texted Christopher, so he should be joining us for too long here. But I think with that, I know Rick was going to talk about the SAM Vision 2040. So I guess probably turn it back over to you, Chair Dye.
Okay, moving on to director's report. I understand that Director Loban has a report for us, I see.
We're going to do the report. For now, we had our first meeting on Saturday of the SAM 2040 committee. 2040 being chosen as one of the probable dates when things like ocean outfalls may have to be disappearing and stuff like that. We had directors Ruddick and Clark show up, and thank you. We had Jeremy there trying to keep us legal, and Kishan helping to run the meeting. One little thing is we decided to stay as an ad hoc committee for a little while. Down the road, we will probably become a real committee like everybody else. But for now, Jeremy's saying we can get by until we get further down the road with our plans and when we're heading, where we're heading. Our main thoughts were in these initial meetings in the divergent stage of a brainstorming is to start gathering as much information as we can possibly gather. We agreed to go after state agencies, our CASA and AQUA agencies, tie in to local county programs, the name is too long for me to remember, but I'll call it the Sea Level Rise Committee. And make sure that we understand what everybody else is doing and how we tie our things in with all the county and state issues, so we don't waste time trying to create something that somebody else has already done. So I'm pushing for all of our members here, all of our board members to work with their GMs, work with the engineers, work with outside consultants. Every piece of information we can gather at this point is going to be good info. So down the road, we can start converging, throw out the super crazy ideas, probably mine, and move on with, where we're going to go, and then probably form a formal committee. We can do public workshops and all that kind of stuff. We've agreed at this point to meet again next Saturday and a half away from now, and we'll report back how we're doing. I think it was a good start, and I'm happy with the direction we're heading right now. If the other two, if Matthew or Debbie wants to jump in with anything else, that's good too, if they want to say anything now.
Would you like to speak to the meeting? Anyone?
I would.
Okay.
On March 15th to 25th, there is a water reuse symposium online, of course, to talk about water reuse. And this is where I first heard about the package treatment plants. This is the 36th annual water reuse symposium. The opening general session is March 1st, and then it goes on from there. There are and there will be various live roundtables. There's a upcoming webcast on water reuse policy in the 117th Congress and the Biden administration. So I'm a member of the water reuse. I don't know, Keishan, is Sam a member of water reuse?
Yes, I believe so.
And so for members, if you register by February 1st, it is $145 to participate. I think it's a good organization. When I was up with them in Seattle 10 years ago, maybe a little more, it was fascinating and very knowledgeable group of people. And I think, given what we're talking about with the 2040 thing, we should be looking at where we are with the technology now and how to plan for the future. So I would recommend that anybody who has the time, that we sign them up. I would certainly like to do that.
That sounds like cheap entertainment. I'd support that if anybody wants to go to that. If you can get,
I'll send this to Keishan.
Is there, Sam, funding to send directors to educational opportunities like that?
Yes, we can definitely set aside something like that. That shouldn't be a problem.
Well, it sounds as if that would be a valuable use of time.
good idea, Catherine. Thanks.
Yes, yes. Director Clark.
You're muted.
He's frozen and muted.
It's in Peru.
I don't know if I heard this correctly. I thought you started with, this was running March 15th through the 25th, but then you said the first session is the 1st of March.
The opening symposium is on the 25th. I think it's like, I don't know what the schedule is. I get the sense it will be a couple hours a day rather than having to sit and watch it for 8 hours a day.
Let's look into it.
So I've sent it to Keishan. He can look into it and send us all the information.
Sure.
Anyone else want to speak to this? Any members of the public want to speak to this?
Yeah. Director Dye, just real quick. I didn't do this during my attorney's report, so I'll take a mulligan here. With the change of administration, you're going to see a lot more active EPA on a number of fronts. We've already started to see that with some emerging contaminants. So some of our discharge standards may change. For those who are following perfluorinated substances, they're called PFAS. they're the chemical contaminant du jour that the regulators are really focusing on. So in the months ahead, and this may be something that may be explored in the SAM 2040 committee, depending on if that's the direction I want to go. But there is quite a bit of change with some things that were not previously priorities, likely to be getting more attention with federal EPA and some of the other regulatory agencies.
Well, I think some of the special districts materials and presentations deal with those issues to be watching potential legislation. So something that we should maybe think about having directors assigned to pay attention to some of these issues. Something to think about maybe for us to each take a piece of some of these emerging legislative areas of potential regulation or encouragement or grant funding and so forth. So maybe we can put that on a later agenda, or maybe it can be part of what your committee is looking at. So anything else on this topic?
Nope.
Anybody want to say anything further? All right. So I guess that we have topics for further future board consideration. Glad we're moving forward on the CIP and the budget. Director Penrose.
Yes, Ronaldo Veseliza, correct me if I'm wrong, Ronaldo, has a lot to say about new and modern technology in sewer plants. Can you speak to that, Ronaldo?
Yes, I can. In fact, I'm putting together a presentation of smaller modular treatment plants that have evolved over the last 20 years and are now at a scale that can be accommodated in smaller and smaller packages. And I've been dealing with them on a large scale for total office complexes to condominium complexes in Southern California, where basic septic systems failed, or treatment plants have maxed out, definitely unable to deal with growth or the type of effluent that is coming through the systems. So I'm putting together a presentation I would love to share with you at some point in the near future. But I'd like to meet with Kishan and Debbie and Deborah to do a preview with them as to what's available, what's possible. The big issue is that the costs over the last 20 years have come down significantly for not only the big MBR plants, but the small units that are available now. And so it's changed the dynamic as to what is possible. The biggest issue is recycling water, and that most central plants, including all of the major ones here on the Bay and in the peninsula, are unable to really clean up the water well enough to be able to pump it back uphill into the user's backyard. So that's a big problem, regardless how much water you process. If you can't recycle it and use it, then you're wasting water. So that's the subject of my presentation. And thank you, Deborah.
Yeah, Ronaldo, real quick, I've got a real short email address. If you could copy that down, and I can make sure our whole committee gets that, and when appropriate, we could get a full presentations there also.
Certainly, I will do that. Yeah.
Real short email. It's just.
I suggest that he send it to Keishan and he can send it to all the board members.
I think that would be great.
Okay.
Thanks for your input, Ronaldo.
Yes, I'm an architect, by the way, so I'm not just interested in wastewater, but it is a particular passion of mine because we all swim in it, we all drink it, and it's important that we create systems that actually work. Right now, the biggest item that happens to come on the market is that a lot of these IT companies, especially in Silicon Valley, are buying up these systems for their corporate headquarters. so that they can use them on their particular sites and take advantage of being their own treatment system. This is something we should also consider for small cities. They can handle smaller plants and be able to utilize them more efficiently. Cutting the cost is a big factor in that you can cut the cost by a third to 2/3 by using the smaller plants with MBR reactors. Anyway, just points of interest.
We will look forward to getting more information from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ronald.
All right, moving on. Nothing further in open session, then I guess we are going to convene in closed session.
Yes. We have a couple of different closed sessions this evening. We have two closed sessions under Government Code 54957 and 54957.6 dealing with labor and employment. We also have a litigation closed session. So with that, I'd recommend we recess to closed session, and those not involved in closed session, please drop off the line.
Yes, and I would.
Good night, everyone.
Goodbye, visitors. Thank you for joining
I
us.
will be back in a few minutes. I need a small break.